and welcome to Pigeon Duiwe News Cape Town tour. As the Pigeon Duiwe News team, we came down here in the motherland in Cape Town. We're going to have a few interviews with the top fanciers of Cape Town. They'll share with us how pigeon racing in Cape Town is and why they're racing here in Cape Town. Stay tuned.
Hi everybody. I would like to spread a message to catch the South African pigeon news portal on pigeonduiwenews.com, and don't miss their web series where different fanciers get featured on the show every Fridays on YouTube. Pigeon Duiwe News TV. The news company is owned by Mr. Samuel, whom I met and who is a client of Pipa, and who used to buy the Golden Prince and Gentle Lady and every other, many other super pigeons. And his main objective is to grow the sport, the pigeon sport in South Africa, as there is a big potential, and also to grow the sport worldwide. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel and to like or comment the channel. So I would like to say hello to all the pigeon fanciers in South Africa. Many regards from Belgium. I'm Nicholas. This was Nicholas from Pipa from Belgium. Bye bye.
Mr. Ashley September, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on your show, and it's a real pleasure and a real honor for you guys to have decided to come visit me. Welcome to Cape Town.
Thank you, and as you welcome us to Cape Town, tell us more about how it is racing here.
Cape Town, Western Cape racing, I would say it's very different to some other organizations. What makes it very challenging is the mountain range we have. And you know, Cape Town is known for 4 seasons of weather in one day. And we experience that throughout the bulk of the year. So when we're racing pigeons, we also experience that. And I think what makes it very difficult is our pigeons race, and when they come to the end of their journey, they must negotiate the mountain range. And the decision that a pigeon makes before the mountain will drastically affect the outcome when he gets home. So that is what makes racing pigeons in the Western Cape different, and I think more challenging, and especially in the Federated Board of Homing Unions, where I race. The spread of the Pigeon Fanciers across the Federated Board ranges almost 100 kilometers between the first drop and the last drop, and that is not just in the direction of flight, it's also across the width of the area which the pigeons are coming in. So it makes it challenging and rewarding if you can achieve good performances like that.
Yeah, and now in terms of your journey now, how did you start racing, and where's the inspiration coming from?
My journey started when I was still primary school, probably 6-7 years old. I caught a stray pigeon in the backyard. It was a black pigeon, and I had a little box this size. Put the pigeon in there and gave it some food and water, and a few days later I opened it up and went to school, came back, and the pigeon was back. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. And my uncle, J.H. September, he's 88 years old today, and he's still racing pigeons. He walks with a cane, but he makes the journey to his loft every day. And he came to visit our house one day, and he said, no, get rid of that pigeon, I'll give you proper pigeons. And the other uncle said, I'll build you the loft. And today, 30 odd years later, some of my friends are still talking about those pigeons I had back when I was at school. So that's where it all started, and it hasn't stopped yet.
And what's your proudest moment since you started racing?
Well, there's a few, but I'll give you the first one. in terms of racing performances is when I won the Proudest board. That's on average 1,100 kilometers for us here in Cape Town. And I clocked the pigeon on the day, the Friday, so it was released earliest on the Friday morning. And I think that's every pigeon fancier in the Western Cape's dream, is to one day win the Proudest board. And I still remember it clearly, that Friday night or late afternoon, my wife came to me and asked me, "What are you still doing outside?" Because it's nearly dark. And I said, "I'm getting a pigeon today." And I saw the pigeon come from far. And what a moment that was, to find out that you actually had the first bird home on the truck on the day. And yeah, that was one of the proudest moments. I think that was back in 2004. Okay, this dark check white flight cock, I call him Caesar. It's actually a bird that was bred by a friend of mine, Andre Abrams. He's been 5 times union champion in the NSHU. The NSHU is the biggest union in the federated board. We've been friends for just over 40 years, and he was kind enough to let Caesar stay by me now. And this cock has bred at least 3 ace pigeons in the federated board. And as you know, we're talking about in excess of 500 fanciers. And the story with this cock is it originated from a hen on the one side called Hope, which is another friend of mine, him, Mr. Shelton April from Wellington, who managed to win the car in the federated board with a single pigeon, and he was a first-year fancier. So the Hope line is in this cock, Caesar, and that was from the Patri line, which I obtained from my mentor back in the day, who's now sadly passed on, Mr. Pitt Lofts. And yeah, of recent, Caesar bred me a cock called James Bond. This cock is called James Bond. His number is 00714. That's why I called him James Bond, and he's a real movie star too. This cock managed to achieve the ace pigeon middle distance 2019 in the federated board. So that is competing over the middle distance category against thousands of pigeons on a regular basis to come out tops at the end. James Bond has now been retired to the stock loft, and I started breeding off him last year and racing his babies this year. I had some success already, and I'm looking forward to his offspring into the future. So this cock has bred, raced exceptionally well. Okay, this old man is called Red Legend. As you can see, he is a 2005 pigeon. He's been single-handedly responsible for almost 40 top 100 positions in the federated board truck. Not it's all direct children of him, and last year my best yearling was still a daughter out of this old cock, and this year his yearlings are still producing for me phenomenal results. So I don't know, there's something very special about this bird. And this pigeon was actually bred by my brother, who's also racing with me, Newton, September. And I identified this cock as a youngster in his loft and said one day at the end of the season I would like to have this bird. And the bird was actually lost on the Kroonstad. And the cock came back on the Wednesday, and he called me to say, "Do you still want the red bird?" He's back. I was there within 5 minutes, because he lives around the corner, and I've never looked back since This is arguably the best pigeon that I've ever owned and still own. And actually, it's an honor to have a pigeon like this in your loft. I don't think I'll ever find one again in my lifetime who at this age is still producing the goods. So that's let alone his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, because I've got plenty of them in the stock by now. And they race exceptional and they breed exceptional. So Red Legend, I love this cock.
Yeah, and now your objectives now for the future. Well, what have you planned going forward?
That's an interesting question, and a question I ask myself, and I get asked a lot as well. So the plans for the future is obviously for me to stay in the game and improve on what I've achieved to date. And yes, that gets challenging every year, more challenging to improve on what you have achieved. But that being said, it rather encourages me to find ways to innovate and also to simplify, the pigeon sport for myself, because at the end of the day, you have to have a balance in life, and pigeons are part of my life and my family life and your work life, and so to still find ways to do that is what is next for me, and also to take my pigeon career to the next level, whatever that may be. So it will be interesting. I also maybe want to just add in terms of the achievement when you asked, I said the one was performance related, but also in terms of being a more established fancier now in the Western Cape, is to give back. And just to quote you a little story, years ago I witnessed a prize giving, and some two brothers, juniors, they did very well in a race, and they weren't recognized by the more senior fanciers, and I felt that something had to be done. And one day I just surprised them and I gave them a medal, one of my medals. And since then, they've been in contact with me. And one day the older brother came to me and said, basically requested me to assist them, as they were at the bottom of the log every year. They struggled to just have points in the club. And for me to commit to something like that is, I'm a type of person, you give it 100% or you don't do it at all. And I said to them, okay, I will help you guys. And I went to visit their loft and I said, you know what, don't aim for club champion, aim higher. I said, it will take 4 years and then you will be union champion in your union. And he couldn't believe me. And 4 years later, he was the union champion, and to me, in terms of achievements, that is something I'm very proud of, and I think it's something other fanciers should consider. Keep the young guys in the sport, keep them motivated. The more established guys, you can't win everything, and you've got to have competitors to compete against. So I'm quite proud of that moment as well.
Yeah, and now if you had to bring changes into the pigeon sport here, what would you do?
For the Western Cape, firstly, I think we need to unite the organizations closer. In terms of optimizing our resources, we've got a few trucks and with different organizations, so that means different spending on keeping those trucks on the road. And we can bring the cost down, because pigeon racing is very expensive nowadays. And if you think back of the history of pigeon sport, it wasn't the rich people doing it. In terms of cutting cost, like this weekend is our first combine race in a long time. And I'm very excited about it. We have 4 combine races between the WCPTA and the Federated Board. And in so doing, the cost of transporting the pigeons is being achieved, as well as uniting the fanciers. Unfortunately, we've been in the period of COVID now for almost 2 years, and you don't get to see other pigeon fanciers no more. That interaction is limited. So at least combine races will unite the fanciers more in terms of results and communication that will flow after that, and that's just that excitement of competing against now close on 1,000 guys instead of 500 guys. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, and is it also a family sport at your home, pigeon racing?
My family, I would say in terms of family, my brother races pigeons. He's a fierce competitor. He lives 2 minutes away from me. We used to race together back in the day when we stayed with my parents still and the September brothers. My wife supports me 100% in my sport and helps me where she can, so I'm eternally grateful for that. And I've got 2 beautiful daughters, and pigeons is just not in their blood. And but they're also very excited about every weekend. Dad, how did it go? And well done. And so in terms of family, it's Mr. E17, my uncle, that is still racing. So yeah, that's in terms of the family aspect of it.
Yeah, and if you would have to tell someone to not do anything in their loft or in the racing sport, what would that be?
That's an interesting question. Not to do anything. I think the most common one is overcrowding your loft and just grabbing pigeons from wherever you can just to fill that loft. So, but even that one, you can elaborate on it. And I'm, for example, a fancier that keeps more than the average person in terms of the numbers for your loft. And but there are ways and means where you can still get performances out of a bigger size flock, I would say. But yeah, stay away from overcrowding and just putting any pigeon in your loft.
Yeah. And what's your biggest mistake that you've ever done by the loft throughout the years?
Being kind to another fancier. I got offered babies late in the season from a very kind gentleman, and because he obtained it, and he said, I would like you to race 4 of these 10 babies, just take any 4. And I took the 4 babies and entered it into my loft, only to find that a few days later my whole loft got infected, and I lost about 80% of my pigeons. So be very careful of doing that. That was the biggest mistake. However, I still managed to win the Union Championship at the end of the season with a few birds I had left.
Yeah, so the birds came with any sicknesses there? Or?
Yes, the birds were ill, but it wasn't apparent to me, and that was a rookie mistake of just entering strangers' pigeons into your loft without doing the due diligence on them.
Yeah, so that's a no-no.
That's a no-no.
Yeah, and now what's your ultimate tip you can give guys out there, and juniors as well?
I get asked that question quite a lot, and the answer I give to a lot of fanciers is it's just the word why. If you can ask yourself why you do anything in the pigeon sport, why are you feeding them? Why are you feeding them at that time? Why are you feeding them that particular food? Why are you exercising the birds? Why are you exercising them that long? Why not longer? If you just keep on asking why, eventually you will come to because. And if you can use that to guide you through your pigeon career, you'll get very far. But it's not an easy answer, but it at least will put you on the right track by asking why, and not just simply do it because my friend is doing it and this one has been doing it for many years, so I'm just blindly following the blind.
And do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, firstly I want to thank you, Tatu, you and your team, and Mr. Samuel, and I think what you guys are doing for the pigeon sport is great. We need more of this, and I do have a concern in terms of the numbers, in terms of fanciers that's still actively racing. If you look at the average age of pigeon fanciers nowadays, you'll see it's quite old, which means youngsters are not coming into the sport as much as they should. It is a brilliant sport, and we need to find ways to ensure it sustains and it grows. And so the initiative that you guys are doing is great, giving the exposure to all walks of life. And thank you once again for having me. It's a real honor, and I appreciate it.
And there you have it from Ashley September. You need to always ask why. If a fancier offers you a bird or anything, you need to ask why, then you'll be on the right track. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our TV channel. And until next time, my name is Tatos Hun, and this is Pigeon Duiwe News.